Philly the right way. It's Marv and Rauh in the morning.
Yes, welcome on into Marv and Rauh in the morning. Christian Rauh, Nick Marovets here. Let's rock and roll. Man, NFL playoffs, wildcard weekend is over. So many lead changes. NFL history was made, and we're only 1 week into the playoffs. I mean, there's still 8 teams left in the fold. It's going to be a wild NFL divisional round. I'm excited for the Saturday and Sunday games. It's going to be fun. Number 1 seeds on Saturday, number 2 seeds on Sunday. Got a ton to talk about on today's show. We're going to dig into that Steelers game against the Texans for sure. Got some transfer portal news in college football, some big news that's going to change the landscape of 2026. And I got a bone to pick with Nick here to end this show, and I think it's going to be a fun one because of all the stuff in his background. I'm pretty sure I already know his answer, but I want to know who he thinks the best team in the country is when it comes to college basketball. All right, here on Nick, on Marv and Rauh in the morning. Look at this. I need a little bit more caffeine to actually get our title right. Exciting stuff, man. But hey, let's dig right in. Let's get right in. I'm not even going to let you talk yet. I'm going to go right to it, and I'm going to ask you this question. Are we done? Is it at the end of an era? Is Aaron Rodgers, is Mike Tomlin, are they done in Pittsburgh? And maybe even more third than that, are they done, period? Is it over? Are we at an end of an era?
This was an ugly loss. Like, I think that's the biggest thing about this wasn't a close, like, honestly, the way that the rest of the playoffs had gone, had the Steelers lost maybe the way that the Panthers lost or something like that, I think the perspective would look a lot like just everything around the game would look different. And there'd be a chance that we're not having the same exact conversation. But man, this one was ugly. I mean, 30-6, the final score, but it also at the same time kind of felt like 100-6. But then at the same time, because of the Texans offense being what it was, it really kind of felt like the 7-6 score that it was for a while. Very interesting. But the defense from the Texans totally obliterating Aaron Rodgers, just play after play after play. I mean, it really was an ugly ending. And then obviously when you compile that with the fact that the Steelers have lost 6 or 7 in a row now in the postseason, I think it was 7. And TJ Watt was a part of the 5 of those, I think is what they were throwing out there. It's just, there's going to be question marks. And I think, the Aaron Rodgers question marks are more about, like, I don't think it's surprising as much. It's not really about, like, does he want to play for this Steelers team as opposed to, like, he's 42 or whatever. Like, I think everyone's kind of seen the writing on the wall coming for a while now. We've been having the same conversation for like 5 years. But as far as Mike Tomlin goes and the future of the Steelers, that I think is a much more organizational, what is the goal here? Because I just wanted to throw this your way. The Steelers now have, 19 in a row straight winning seasons. I mean, it's incredible. It's the longest start to a career by a head coach of all time. It's insane. But 7 straight losses in the playoffs. I mean, it's ugly. It's not really ideal. Then you look at what Shanahan and the 49ers have done. He has more playoff wins since 2017 than Mike Tomlin has all time, and a ton of losing seasons mixed in there. So which one would you rather have, right? It's one of the classic, would you rather beat your rival or win the national title games? If you could only pick one, which would you choose? Would you rather have a winning season literally every year, or have some up years, some down years, but you go to the Super Bowl? You might not win it, but you go to the divisional round. There is some hope, but you can look forward to, like, next game. So I think that's really a philosophical question the Steelers need to answer this offseason and decide where the trajectory of their program is heading.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since the Steelers have been bad, right? Like, they've been, if you want to say it, mediocre for a very long time. But it's been a very long time since the Steelers have been bad. I'm talking like going back to before Ben Roethlisberger. I'm talking about going to like the Tommy Maddox, Charlie Batch days at quarterback, like where they were going back and forth deciding who was going to play that. There was a couple seasons under Bill Cowher where it just wasn't going right towards the end of his tenure. It's been a while. So now you have to maybe ask this question. The Ravens did it with John Harbaugh. Do you decide, hey, look, maybe being on the fringe of being a playoff team year in and year out is great. Don't get me wrong. You were always battling. You were always in contention. You were always playing football in late December, January, regardless. But, like, at the end of the day, that's not the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's a competitor, Mike Tomlin will be the first to tell you this as well. That's obviously not the end of the goal. Them going 10-7 for 3 straight years isn't the answer. And Obviously, I think there needs to be a change here. I wonder if they're going to actually do it. I didn't know if the Ravens were going to do it, and then they did. And then Mike Tomlin here, like, is this because did he make the playoffs? Did he save his job? And of course, is it a good idea to actually make this decision? Because he made the playoffs. He won the division.
Right.
So it's an interesting concept for sure. I lean towards you keep him. I personally do. And I know that might sound wild. And because look at all the things that are pointing in the wrong direction. You just tied Marvin Lewis for the most playoff losses in a row at 7. The team that obviously trades to get Aaron Rodgers, trades to get DK Metcalf. You go and get some big time players. You hope that it obviously can help you. And the best you do is 10-7 in a division that obviously struggled this year under Joe Burrow, under Lamar Jackson. The Cleveland Browns are the Cleveland Browns. And you obviously struggle, and you still find a way to make the postseason. It's not the same Pittsburgh Steelers team that it has been for quite some time. But, man, I'm telling you what, I think there still is some juice for Mike Tomlin.
I don't know, man. I think I'm on the other side of the fence here. I'm not going to lie. I just think back to think about Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell. Was that the year they started 11-0? It was just like those teams were so fun to watch. And I don't think it really, winning the Super Bowl at that point obviously is the goal. But if you fall short, there was still some hope, I feel like, obviously for next season. And also, it wasn't at the point that it is now with Mike Tomlin. I feel like now there's more questions than ever with the roster. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong on that. I do feel like Steelers fans are getting a little bit of okay, this is getting old. This is getting a little stale. And if I'm wrong on that, that's just me not living in Pittsburgh. So I totally understand. I could be misreading the vibe there, but they were loud in the stadium last night. They were very disappointed in how that game went, and you could hear it through the broadcast. I lean towards if you could only go 10-7 in a division that really, really struggled this year. I mean, we are talking almost NFC South levels of struggle, considering the amount of talent that the AFC North has. That it's just not a good sign, right? Obviously, very good coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time to do it. I am not arguing about how good of a coach Mike Tomlin is, but I am saying with the roster he has, it's a pretty decent roster. Obviously, it's no world beater. I'm not saying that, but a pretty decent roster. You can only go 10-7 and squeak out a divisional win in a year where Joe Burrow and Lamar, and then obviously the Browns, they just were terrible. It was a bad year for the North. And I don't know. I just lean towards they're ready for a change, and they're ready to try something new.
Aaron Rodgers, 42 years old, played most likely his last game in the NFL. If that's the case, his final throw was a pick 6 to the Houston Texans.
I appreciated the fact that they pulled him, though.
Yeah, I hated the fact that they pulled him with 2 minutes to go. I wanted to throw at least one screen pass so he could have that not on his resume. I was saying that out loud. They weren't even
catching those, man.
That's true. It was a bad game. They could get. I mean, there was nothing going right for the Steelers in this football game. And on the flip side, not much was going right for Houston's offense either. They just found a way to win, and obviously the defense did a good job. CJ Stroud was not good in this game whatsoever. If you look at the stats and just his passing yards, 251 touchdown and a pick, you might think, okay, that's not too bad. He fumbled 5 times, Nick. 5 times. That's an NFL postseason record. He hit the record when he got the 4. The most
that was before the half, wasn't it?
In the play, yeah, and he had 5 in the football game, and he still found a way to win that game. He needs to be buying Rolexes and steak dinners for his entire defense this week, for the entire week after getting that win, because this is the first time the Texans have won a road playoff game in the history of their franchise as the Houston Texans, and they do it in one of the toughest environments in Pittsburgh, in the Steel City. And now we might be getting a steel curtain call with Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers maybe finishing their career. Look, if Aaron Rodgers decides to call it quits, which nobody would give him crap for doing so, he's closer to AARP than he is his rookie years, right? So no one would give him crap. Everybody thought that he was going to be done this past year when you saw him standing out on the beach thinking about his life, right? Everybody, when the pictures came out, the darkness retreats, right? If he goes into the darkness this time for good, what does that mean for the Steelers? If you look at the pending free agents for quarterbacks, you have Mason Rudolph on your roster right now. The pending free agents for quarterback, Daniel Jones. Yeah, that's probably your best bet. But Indianapolis is going to chase after him hard. We've already heard Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, saying they're doing so. Other than that, your best quarterback in free agency is probably Malik Willis, and that's it. I mean, you're talking Russell Wilson, already tried that, didn't work. You're talking Trey Lance, he was behind the Chargers. Like, you give that a shot again. You just tried that with Justin Fields. That didn't really work. Marcus Mariota, he's getting older. That's probably not the right call either. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Do you move towards a rookie like Ty Simpson's kind of projected to fall down to their, I think they're picking 21 right now.
And then that gives you another question. It's like, is Mike Tomlin ready to do that with a rookie at his age in his career?
I think we could be looking at a full wipe. Like we get rid of the head coach, we get, move on to a rookie, and just like it's almost.
I think that's where I lean to saying yes, it might need to be finally time for Tomlin to go, because when you have a coach that has been around for so long, and then you're like, okay, we got to shift forces, we got to go down to the nuts and bolts. Let's get a rookie quarterback, let's build it up. Then you go bring a new philosophy in. But if you're going to go bring somebody in free agency, which there's nobody in there, so that means you're going to have to trade for a veteran. The only one that comes to mind is Kirk Cousins. Is that move the needle for you?
No, I don't think the Steelers can win that way. And I think, as great of a head coach as Mike Tomlin is, a refresh for him is going to be great. Obviously, I guess he could be done. He could retire, and he would retire one of the greatest of all time if he were to retire, and he'd have a crazy streak and whatever. But I don't think he will. So, if they move on and he goes and gets a new change of scenery and sees success, and then the Steelers kind of rebrand themselves a little bit, bring in a new head coach, they have the opportunity to go with a new, brand new rookie, a brand spanking new, shiny new toy for the fans to get behind. Like, I feel like that is going to just present so much hope that could be the avenue here, because otherwise you stay with a coach that all of the Steelers fans ever are just assuming, all right, we're going to go 9-8. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to lose first round. We're going to pay TJ Watt too much money. We're probably going to trade for some veteran quarterback. We're going to pay too much money. We're going to pick up, a 2019 first team All-Pro, or an All-Star, or whatever you want to call them. Like, it's not a formula that's been working. And I think trying something new I think everyone that's a Steelers fan would probably at least listen to it. They might not tolerate it for very long, but they'll at least entertain the idea.
If you had to pick a job that's open right now for Mike Tomlin to go to, if he decides to move on from the Steelers, to me, the only one that makes the only sense is the Falcons. You at least have a quarterback, you have pass rush, you have a defense, you have some weapons. You don't have to do much to that one. Yeah, you don't have a first-round pick, but I don't think that's stopping Mike Tomlin. I think you are a playoff team in the NFC South, of course, and you get right back to being 10-7 in the NFC South might guarantees you the division.
10-7 in the NFC South would literally break records for most.
They might build a statue. Yeah.
I mean, you're exactly right. That's a really good point. I was going to say maybe, I don't know, culturally wise, is the Raiders like, that's just the first one.
But that would be the rookie quarterback conversation again with the Raiders.
No, absolutely. But it's a change of scenery too, though. I think there's just something to be said about him committing to a new team, showing that he's going to be there 5-ish years or whatever, committing to a rookie, as opposed to, man, it feels like he's been here forever. Like, is he going to see this rookie through? I think is kind of how I'm thinking about it, at least. But the Falcons, that's a great pick. And, if the Steelers move on, as soon as he's on the market, he will be the number one coach out there. I don't think that's super controversial take. I think that everybody knows the caliber of coach that Mike Tomlin is. And if you can bring him in, if nothing else, obviously for the winning season, but the fan base is going to just go nuts for that. Like the potential for, not only 1 year, but 2 or 3 or 4 year success is almost inevitable. I think that you have to do that if you're an owner.
Yeah, he retires. He's going to be either in media. I think he could go in the front office. I think he could head coach somewhere else as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. And then that could be another route too. Maybe he decides to move into the front office of the Steelers and then grow a new coach. Like that could be really fun. And that might be the best move for Pittsburgh. If I'm a Pittsburgh fan, if I'm a Steelers fan, that's the move that I want them to personally make. If you want to have some sort of change, but still have Tomlin around, because I don't think that's a bad thing for you in your organization. What's happened over the last, it's insane. Over the last, 25 years? There's only been 2 coaches in Pittsburgh?
Well, more than that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, we're talking 30 years. Yeah, like it's been Cowher and Tomlin since however long. It's been insane since the early 90s,
Yeah, I'm
mid
pulling it up.
90s, I think. I think Cowher started in 95, and that's a guess. I don't have anything in front of me. If I'm right, then holy crap. While you're looking that up,
92.
Aaron Rodgers said it's an absolute joke for Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers head coach, and Mike Tomlin to even be considered on a hot seat. Do you think that's a good take or a bad take from Aaron Rodgers?
Just for the record, Coward became the coach in 92.
Oh,
So,
it's close.
and then their last head coach before that was Noel, and he was brought on in 69. So if
Yeah.
you want to go even back yet another coaching tenure, the Steelers are known for bringing on guys for an extended amount of time, which, it's just actually crazy. And as far as Rodgers' statement, what he's basically talking about, I did listen to this, was he was saying like, back in the day, this wouldn't have really been a conversation. They would have gotten a lot more grace. And it's the same thing with rookie quarterbacks, right? Like guys now only get 2 maybe years because they got to figure out if they're going to get a 5th year extended. And they have to decide that really, really early. And then the way the money works. And it's like back in Rodgers, 2005 or whatever it was when he was drafted, you got 6 years minimum, I think, to develop yourself and to prove that you can be a quarterback. It's just not that way anymore. And obviously coaching is going to reflect that. So to say it's ridiculous or whatever the wording was that he said for those quarterbacks or for those coaches to be on the hot seat, I'm not disagreeing with him, but like it's also the reality of the situation. The NFL is much different than it was 21 years ago. Like it's just a much faster turnover. You need to win now. And it's because guys are proving that they can do it, right? Like look at Vrabel and what May is doing up in New England. Like he hasn't been there 15 years. He hasn't been there 7 or 8 years. He's been there 2 years or whatever it is. And he's just already killing it. So there is an element of truth to the fact that you kind of have to be able to do it. I think that there's, with Tomlin, I don't think it's about success. I think it's more about maybe postseason success and, potentially just trying to change the trajectory of the program. LaFleur is an interesting one, though. That one he threw in there, and that one I wonder, just about how do you feel about the LaFleur one? Because I think the Tomlin one is slightly different, in my opinion.
I think LaFleur you can't get rid of. Tomlin, I think if you're going
Right.
to make any moves because of the stagnantness, the 7 straight playoff losses, the fact that your division rival who had a long-term coach did the exact same thing, and they're going to be making a brand new rebuild. This is the perfect time if you want to make the move for Tomlin. There's not a better time. LaFleur, on the other hand,
Good
you don't
point.
let him go to the market. If
No.
LaFleur goes to the market, he's the Steelers coach tomorrow. Because the Steelers become the best opening in NFL, and LaFleur would take that in a heartbeat.
If LaFleur hit the market, I think there'd be a fair amount of owners that would fire their head coach to bring LaFleur in.
Well, I honestly think you're correct, and that just tells you that alone. I mean, we've had this conversation about Stefanski too. Like, if the Cleveland Browns fire you and you're already interviewing for head coaching jobs, then you did not do the right choice in firing.
Right.
Speaking of playoff success, D'Amico Ryan, CJ Stroud, they've been together for 3 years now. In all 3 of those seasons, they've reached the AFC's Final Four so far. That's pretty incredible.
Wow.
They made it to the divisional round in all 3 of the seasons under them. And I know it makes, after watching that game last night, CJ Stroud, putting him in the conversation there as the duo, Stroud didn't really get him there. They helped.
Stroud was actively hurting them.
He was limping the Texans into this one. But now you're going to see the Texans play the Patriots in Foxborough on Sunday, potentially without wide receiver 1 and Nico Collins. But on the flip side, the Patriots are going to be without potentially their CB1 in Christian Gonzalez. How do you feel about that one? I know you're a Patriots fan, but you just watched maybe the most electric, maybe the most toughest defense in the NFL take down an NFL legend. But then on the other side, you got a guy like Drake May.
Yeah. Well, first off, obviously, Nico, just a tough situation there, not being able to brace. So obviously hoping he's all right and speedy recovery. If he's not, that's just ugly. This defense for the Texans is just genuinely the only thing I'm scared of about this team. On offense, I mean, it's a general offensive, NFL team. They're going to have success. But they're definitely below the average mark, at least in this game they were, in my opinion. And CJ Stroud is somehow holding them back. I don't know if it was one game here or if it's like the playoffs or whatever. I am terrified of this defense, though. And one name that stood out to me was Jalen Petrie. I mean, there was like 7 plays in a row where his stat line, yes, he led the defense with 7 total tackles, 5 solo, and 2 tackles for loss. But it was insane the way he was just, for lack of a better word, like flies on shit. I mean, everywhere the ball was going, he was there. It was insane. He was making plays left, right, and center. I kind of want to say he was the guy guarding Collins when he got hurt, but it was right around that time of the game that he was just literally breaking passes up, making tackles, diving for picks. Like, it was, and that's just the epitome of this Texans defense. And the pass rush was nuts for them all night long. They had 8 tackles for loss. They were just dominating the Steelers. So I am a little bit scared of that. I think the Patriots offensive line is going to have to be more than ready for sacks for the Texans against a relatively decent Steelers offensive line and a veteran who should be able to at least pick up on what's coming their way. It's going to be a tough one, but I think that if I had to lean, general which team is better, I'd go Patriots because their offense is going to be able to score points. I think the Texans are going to have to lean on defensive points.
It's going to be a wild game, that's for sure. And I'm excited to see what the next couple of days goes for the Steelers organization, because I think there's going to be a lot of huge franchise-altering decisions within the next, dare I say, a couple hours, let alone maybe even couple days. There might be some things that happen very quickly when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. College football, of course, we have the national championship on Monday, but the transfer portal has been chaotic. I mean, that is probably the right word for this. Absolute chaos. And the Dylan Raiola sweepstakes continues. He's going everywhere. If you look at his past experience from like high school to committing, decommitting, well, now he has chosen a new path. He's going to go to Oregon. He's transferred from Nebraska. He's going to be an Oregon Duck. Does he sit behind Dante Moore if Dante Moore decides to come back from the NFL, or Dante Moore might decide to enter the draft now? But before we even get to Raiola, let's just ask that question here. If Dante Moore returns, hypothetical possibility here, Raiola going to hit the portal again? You going to add to that resume, or is he going to sit behind and let Dan Lanning teach him up and develop?
I have to, just based on the track record, assume that he will be on his way out. But I mean, this is why we like the one portal. Having 2 portals. This is like this means effectively nothing last year. If Raiola commits in this January window, it means less than nothing. It is a complete question mark. There's a very real chance that he moves on. Now, at least that he will be staying there for a year. And we'll have to see, obviously, what happens with Moore and whether or not Raiola plays. But my assumption is that Raiola's assuming he's going to play. He's under the kind of the knowledge that he's going to play. If he doesn't end up playing, he's probably going to be pretty upset about it and will be out before the season's even over, right? Like there's so many guys that are hitting the portal with games left even to play. So that's just my guess. And obviously, I don't know Raiola. I don't know what's going on in Oregon. That's just some guy in front of a microphone saying that. But the track record is absolutely there. And I wonder if the only reason Raiola committed was just because there was that video of Patrick Mahomes in an Oregon jersey. It's a very real chance.
Yeah, funny story there. Everybody making the comparison jokes of Raiola looking like Patrick Mahomes, which he does look like him. But Mahomes lost the bet, and Texas Tech lost to Oregon in the college football playoffs. He wears an Oregon uniform or a jersey. They put it on social media, and a week later, Raiola commits to Oregon. So, I mean, he's not doing himself any favors with that one. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, Oregon loses in the college football playoffs. They don't lose nice in the college football playoffs. They lost over the last couple years to Ohio State, eventual national champions. They lose to Indiana. Most likely, everybody's got them as the favorite as national champions this coming Monday. Dante Moore, we'll see if he becomes a New York Jet or if he comes back to Oregon. Sounds like he's going to be in some sort of shade of green next year while playing football. When you look at Dylan Raiola's stats, though, 2024, he threw for 2,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 11 picks. Last year, hit 2,000 on the dot, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. His turnover ratio got a lot better. Yards got a little worse, but whatever on that case. He also got injured. He didn't play the entire season. Rushing-wise, he's not a good rusher. He's not a good mobile quarterback, and that's something that's definitely surprised me.
That was the biggest thing that when we were going through a lot of these players, looking through the transfer portal, I was like, okay, Raiola, I think it's literally because everyone makes him out to be Patrick Mahomes because he is so similar and he plays into that. I was like, yeah, he's got probably a couple hundred rushing yards. I don't think he's a massive rusher, but I assume he's semi-mobile. I mean, Zane Flores just committed to Iowa State, and he's got like 100 rushing yards last year, so it doesn't really take a whole lot. No, he have like negative 60 in the last 2 years or something like that. It's just
negative
it shocked me.
152 on his career.
Yeah, it's about. I thought it was right about one
And
negative
sack
60
yards
both
obviously
years.
come into play, but still wild.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how his career pans out, and maybe a coaching change in Oregon will open up his game a little bit more and kind of, if not change it, but at least tune it up and I don't know, lead to more offensive success. I feel like Nebraska is maybe not the best place for that. It's definitely better than it's been over the last 10 years, but I'm excited to see what he can do and if he plays, but I don't think this is the answer for Oregon. I think if you're Oregon, you're trying to even find a different quarterback because there are so many players out there right now.
Yeah, I'm a little iffy on this one. Like, he's been up and down. Obviously, he was the number 1 recruit in the 2024 class. A lot of people were expecting him to go to Georgia, and who knows what that kind of career would have turned out for him under Kirby Smart. Then he goes to Nebraska. He takes a chance on himself with Matt Rule here, obviously trying to build him up. NFL experience, remember, former coach of the Panthers, as he kind of sandwiched his college coaching career. He rebuilt Baylor, what was it, Temple, I think, and then wound up going to Nebraska. And it just didn't work out. And I think they put way too many eggs in the Raiola basket. They won't do that in Oregon. It won't just be the Raiola show. It'll be everything else. He'll be a cog in the machine. And that's kind of what the cool thing about that with Oregon. I think it fits. Obviously, if you look at the past quarterbacks of Oregon over the last 10 years, when you're talking like Bo Nix, you're talking Dante Moore, you're talking Justin Herbert, you're talking about all these players, Marcus Mariota, if you want to go even farther back, they get to the league and they're usually towards the top of college football in their final seasons at Oregon. And Oregon is usually one of the top teams. If Raiola is QB1 next year, the way we're sitting right now, obviously this team was very good this past season. They were one of the best teams in the Big Ten. I think you can make the argument the Big Ten was the best conference in college football this past year, at least on the top heavy side for sure. Is Oregon right back in the mix? Are they a college football playoff team with Raiola at quarterback next year?
I think a better question is, how much does Raiola's stock rise? I don't think we're asking the right question, asking about Oregon as an institution. I think that they're probably going to be just about fine. If nothing else, it'll be kind of like the Steelers are, not the Steelers, the Texans, like we just talked about. Like, their defense is going to, carry them a long ways or whatever. Like, they're going to find a way to win games. But how much does Dylan Raiola's stock benefit from that if he is the guy? Because I think that's part of the reason you make this move is, a guy from Nebraska, as much as this isn't fair, just doesn't have the same shine to him as a guy from Oregon, right? It's just not. It's like having a guy come out with the exact same stats. If a guy came out of Iowa State versus out of Oregon, Oregon. I was going to say Georgia. Like, a guy like out of an SEC school with the exact same stats is going to be looked at very differently. And so, yes, it's still within the Big Ten, but Nebraska is not looked at the same way Oregon is. And I think we have to look at this as a potential move for Dylan Raiola to just way like 10x his stock for almost no reason, right? He could have a totally mediocre year, but how many guys have we seen get to the league that have been like, in the last month of play, they just ball out, and then during the NFL draft process, everyone jumps on a guy, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy might be like legit. And then all of a sudden he's, projected to go 3 as far as quarterbacks go or whatever. So I think this is a move that makes a lot of sense for Dylan Raiola. I think for Oregon, there are a lot of question marks for me. And I'm not saying that Dylan Raiola can't play as a quarterback. I'm not saying that at all. I was shocked by the lack of production when looking into his actual stats, as opposed to what I think a lot of people, how people talk about him. And so I that's where my thought process goes immediately, is to his draft stock.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side here, I mean, there's other big transfer portal additions as well. Texas is not screwing around this year. And Steve Sarkisian, I think you could make the argument that he continues to keep adding very good wide receivers. He's been with Texas for 6 seasons now. 3 of them, he's added the number 1 wide receiver in the portal. No different this time around. Cam Coleman from Auburn decides to be a Texas Longhorn. First thing that comes to my mind is right away, it's September in Austin. We get Jeremiah Smith versus Cam Coleman, Ohio State versus Texas. We get number 1 versus number 2 receivers in the 2024 class. Insane stuff. Can't wait for that one. But immediately what comes to mind is this. Cam Coleman was underutilized. I guess you could even say underappreciated at Auburn. Had not the great quarterbacks. Peyton Thorne, Jackson Arnold, Ashton Daniels. Those names are not Arch Manning. And although at the beginning of last season, Arch Manning wasn't the best, he definitely developed into a great quarterback. If you watch Arch Manning in that Ohio State-Texas game, and then you watch him in the bowl game, that's a completely different quarterback.
Totally different.
We're back to talking about Arch Manning being most likely the number 1 pick in the 2027 draft. Now he has a guy like Cam Coleman as his wide receiver 1. Is Texas officially back?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, they're 17th in the transfer portal rankings for this year, if I'm not mistaken. They have been killing it. That's 2025. Yeah, so I am mistaken. I'm curious what the number is for this year, but they are building around Arch to try to bring success right about now, which is, I think, probably the right play. You can definitely, build out a few years, but with the NIL being what it is, and you have a legit quarterback who's choosing to stay, just bring him weapons. And you're exactly right. Cam Coleman is somehow one of the best wide receivers ever, or not ever, but like of this current, like who's out there, and was underutilized. And so I think we could even see a boost in what he's capable of and what his stats look like here at Texas. And I think this personally turns Texas into a legit, at least SEC contender, probably national title contender, just because more weapons equals more points equals more good, in my opinion. That's kind of how my brain works. It's pretty simple. But I think this is one of the best pickups that Texas could have made. And I personally put a ton of value into this as far as boosting what their potential is for next season.
Yeah, Texas currently, according to On3, they have them as the 20th best transfer portal class right now. I think they're still going to cook, though. But there's a couple other players that are coming in. We talked about them a little bit in the past, talked about some other players that potentially could go there. And I think we talked about 3 players. One of them was Cam Coleman. He was the only one that went to Texas in that conversation. But Hollywood Smothers, the running back from North Carolina State, he's going to Texas. They basically rebuilt their entire running back room. So they had to bring in a big-time running back. Smothers is that guy. Rasheem Biles from Pitt, that linebacker, he's a dude. Justin Cryer, he's a dude from Florida State. Dylan Sikorsky, Oregon State, a young interior offensive lineman. He's going to be somebody that I think would be really exciting to watch. There's a lot of interesting pieces. Raleek Brown from Arizona State, another running back. I think the offense has been retooled. I don't know if the running back room is going to be better than it was last year. I think that'll be a question for me. But overall, I think Arch Manning has enough weapons, maybe even more if you want to put Cam Coleman in that conversation of being better, and which I do think that's the case. I think Cam Coleman is receiver 2 or 3 off the board in the draft next year. I don't think anybody's touching Jeremiah Smith. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But other than that, I think you were in a really good spot. And Texas missed the college football playoffs this past year. They played Michigan in the bowl game. It was one of the best bowl games of the year, but they missed it. They're obviously going to be trying to get back, especially in Arch's most likely last season. And this is huge. I think this is absolutely huge for the Longhorns.
Yeah, that's how I see this as well. I like to say, like, the Texans are just fading off into irrelevance, and they have pulled themselves right back into this year. Obviously not dominating the Big 12 anymore. What does the future of the Longhorns look like? This was a big move for them. This was a move that I think showed what the future could look like. Obviously, you have to get the actual production from the player, right? Like, that's the most important thing here. You could bring in Tom Brady next year, and if he just only throws picks, it's like, well, that didn't really work out. You need to have the actual production. But on paper, this makes Texas look significantly better, and a team that if I was going to put money down, this is a team I would definitely consider.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Arch Manning deals with his new wide receivers. And if you remember, I mean, the Iron Bowl is one of the most popular games, even if Auburn and Alabama are terrible. It's still one of those games that people watch all the time. It's a historic game. Cam Coleman's catches in those games were unreal on a national stage. Now you're going to do it with a team with Arch Manning, who everybody's paying attention to. Let's not sugarcoat it. Everybody's going to be paying attention to Arch Manning, just like they did this past season. It's going to be even more. It's going to be under a magnifying glass this year because nobody truly expected him to leave and enter the draft this past year, especially after the first game of the season against Ohio State. That narrative is out the window now. It is, what does he have now to make sure he's ready for the NFL draft? And now he's got weapons like Cam Coleman, who he would have in the NFL. right? He'd have that type of weapons in the greatest league in the world. So I'm really excited to see how he does. And I'm excited also to stop hearing people say, well, if his name was Arch Smith, nobody talking about him. Cut it out. This guy is talented. He's talented.
Well, and to that argument, I just would love to throw in the fact that, like, yeah, having that last name does get you more opportunities. I can't sit here and tell you that, like, having Manning brothers as uncles wouldn't make me a better quarterback. Obviously, just every family gathering or whenever you see them, I'm sure that he sees them, more than I probably see my uncles. Like, hey, can you show me how to throw a football? Because you might be one of the greatest to ever do it. I feel like that'd be a question that I'd be okay with asking. They'd probably be okay with telling me how it would go. Like, yeah, it got him into these positions, and it definitely, as a name, boosted his stock. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It 100% did. But guess what? He is talented. He can perform. It does not really matter now what his stock was, because he is playing at least like a guy who can get drafted. Like, whether he gets drafted at the exact position that he should or not, that'll be another question of, what is the name and how is that involved? But you can't tell me that he is not playing at an NFL level. Like, he absolutely is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. I would say more so in the second half of the season. The first half was kind of rough. But like, he has developed, and if he sticks around for another year, which I think we all assume he's going to, like, that is just another year under his belt. There is no reason to have the argument that, well, he doesn't deserve to go to the NFL. Like, that's not fair anymore, because he's talented enough.
I think Cam Coleman is an exciting piece. There's no doubt about that. I think it's going to help his development even more for Arch Manning. And I think we're going to see Texas back in the college football playoffs because of not just Cam Coleman, but all the other pieces they've added. I think they've had a strong recruiting class as well. I have faith in Steve Sarkisian to get them back to the college football playoffs. I truly do. And I think Arch Manning's going to do it this year. Don't be shocked that they're one of the top teams in the SEC in 2026. Speaking of the SEC, the number one portal quarterback is following Lane Kiffin to LSU. Sam Leavitt. I mean, there was some drama. There was some courtside seats at a basketball game. Then there was the DeMond Williams news from Washington. Then he makes some other travels. Lane Kiffin has to follow him on a plane. I mean, it was like a rom-com. Sam Leavitt's going to LSU, and it's reported that it's anywhere between $4 to $6 million. One, that's a lot of money for a quarterback. That's a lot of money for a one-year quarterback in college football. But two, is this enough? Is this enough for LSU? And obviously a year where he was expecting some of these Ole Miss players to follow him. It hasn't happened yet. Now with Pete Golding, he's kind of bunkered down. Is this enough for LSU to get back to being relevant in the SEC?
It's a good question. I feel like they missed out on Brendan Sorsby, and they ended up going with Sam Leavitt. Is that a huge downgrade? I would honestly
wait a minute.
No.
You think Sorsby's a better addition than Leavitt? That's where you're hanging.
I believe he was. Wasn't he ranked 1? I think Sorsby was ranked number 1.
It depends where you look, but I'm asking you, what's your thoughts on that?
I think you could make the argument Sorsby might be slightly better. I don't know if he'd be as much better as what they got paid difference wise. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but some of the numbers are being floated around. I mean, the transfer portal is insane right now. Where do I apply to put my name in there just as like a gamble? Who knows if they'll pick me up? But I don't know if it's that big of a difference, but I think, Sorsby definitely has a lot of talent. And Texas Tech obviously wanted him. So LSU getting this pick second. The way I look at this is they fell to Sorsby. They ended up with Leavitt, and I think Leavitt's legit. I watched him. I'm actually wearing this shirt today, funnily enough. I watched him tear Iowa State up in the Big 12 championship. It was ugly. And that was the year that they didn't have Jordan Tyson. And I was like, oh, they're going to be just fine. Iowa State's secondary is unbelievable. If they just shut down like their second tier wide receiver and Cam Scatterbo, there's no offensive production from this team. That was not how it went. And Sam Leavitt has great legs and is very accurate. So I do think that he will see great success at LSU, but I wonder where the rest of the roster is at. The SEC is apparently the greatest conference on the entire planet, and it doesn't really matter how they perform in non-conference or in bowl games because they play the toughest teams week in and week out. It is unbelievably hard. There is nothing like the SEC, allegedly. So I wonder if LSU as a team is completely ready. I wonder, I think Levitt is capable. I think he's very talented. But what does the rest of LSU look like is my first question.
Yeah, they've added some pieces to around him as well. I mean, obviously they're going to be building up. LSU was not a good enough team this past year with what happened with losing, obviously Brian Kelly and everything happened. Garrett Nussmeier moving on to the NFL draft as well.
Yeah.
Right now it looks like the expected weapons for the offense. Obviously Sam Levitt at quarterback, and for the record, I think Levitt's a better guy than Sorsby. LSU fans, if you're listening to this,
okay.
Nick's the only lunatic on here. I think Levitt's insane. I think I've watched him play hero ball for years now. But you got Barry, you got Durham at running back, you got Wilson, who came over from Florida at your wide receiver. You still got Watkins. Watkins comes over from Ole Miss. You still have Anderson, and you have Green at tight end, and then Jace Brown from Kansas State is with LSU now as well. And Jace Brown is an absolute unit. He's fun. He's fun. And so you're gonna have two Big 12 guys, most likely being some top targets with Sam Levitt and Jace Brown moving into the SEC with Lane Kiffin. I'm interested to see what Lane Kiffin does here. Obviously, he had some great offenses at Ole Miss. You go back to the Jackson Dart days. You go back to even farther than that. With what the Will Levis days. So there's a lot of things that he did that were super impressive. Did I say Will Levis? Will Levis is a Kentucky guy, wasn't he?
Yes.
Did I just mess that up? Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. SEC guys are going to bury me on this show. No, but other than that, I mean, I think Sam Levitt is going to be interesting for LSU. My biggest question is, I just don't know if it's enough to get them over the hump in year one with LSU. And that is a huge expectation with LSU. There is no, we need a down year, or it's okay to have a down year. Even when they had an interim coach this year, they were so mad that they were performing the way they were. If Lane Kiffin doesn't come in and perform after all the drama, after the sitcom that just happened, the reality show that happened between Ole Miss and LSU, if he doesn't perform right away, LSU is going to have a bad day. Fans are going to have a bad day.
Yeah, I think if you want to talk about, everyone wants to talk about Matt Campbell at Penn State, get ready. Iowa State gave you such a big leash. It's not going to be the same thing out here in Happy Valley. I think there's a very real conversation that Lane Kiffin has a shorter leash than Matt Campbell does at LSU. And I don't know. I think Sam Levitt was the best play that they could make. I don't think that this was a wrong decision from LSU, but I think that it's going to come down to the rest of the team around him. That's just the way that I see it. I think he's a very talented quarterback. And is he better than Sorsby or not? We're really splitting hairs here. And that's what the point I was trying to make with I don't know what the difference is. If it's a $2 million difference in college ball, that just looks like, oh my gosh, Texas Tech is going to run away with the championship. But it's really not that big of a deal. I don't think the difference is that much. Obviously the money is huge, but if you're comparing at the NFL level, it's comparing $200,000. It's not that big of a deal to me, especially when Texas Tech is involved. So I think they're both very talented. And I think Sam Levitt has the opportunity to take LSU to new heights and to bring Lane Kiffin some success right away. I think Lane Kiffin is a pretty solid, if not a great evaluator of talent. And I think that this is the guy that they had to bring in. It's just going to come down to the rest of the team, right? And can those kinds of guys handle playing in the toughest conference of all time? I mean, obviously when they play other conferences, it doesn't really matter. But when they play in the SEC, geez, they really turn the intensity up, man. I don't know if the rest of this roster completely ready for that.
Sarcasm. I love the sarcasticness here on Tuesday.
What?
I'm sure all the LSU fans are really going to appreciate that. Matt Corral, by the way, is the guy I was thinking of as the guy before Jackson Dart. I knew I had to look it up. I had to make sure I knew there was one other guy that had some success before Jackson Dart did at Ole Miss, and it's been one of those days for me on this Tuesday. But overall, I do think LSU is going to be a good team. They're going to be eligible for a bowl. But of course, absolutely. Is that enough? If you go 8-4 in year one under Lane Kiffin at LSU, what are you doing? Are you saying, hey, look, that's just not enough? Fire Lane Kiffin? Are we at that mode already? Because there's going to be certain people who are already there in year one. If 8-4 is the only thing that happens to Lane Kiffin, I think that's a great year, especially after the way that you just had with Brian Kelly, what he's done over the last couple of years. Of course, got him to an SEC championship a few years back, but still underperformed with Daniels at quarterback. So I think he's got to build it up the way that you expect to. When you look at how he built up Ole Miss, right? In 2020, in his first year, now take it, it's 2020, he was 5-5. Then he immediately goes 10-3 in 2021, takes a step back in 2022, goes 8-5. Then in 2023, goes 11-2, 10-3, 11-1. So if you want to compare this, if you take 2020 out the window, because no one wants to remember that year. And his first full year at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin was 10-3. Does that make your expectations higher if you're an LSU fan? Or are you still trying to be grounded and saying, if they go 8-4 in the first year, I'll be happy with that if I can see some progress?
No, I think LSU fans are expecting at least 9 wins, probably double digits. I mean, but looking at their schedule here, if I've got it right, this is rough. I'm looking on LSU's website, LSU Sports, so hope I've got it here. Clemson, I don't know who Clemson's going to be. They should be able to beat Louisiana Tech, so that's at least one. Ole Miss, that's going to be a huge game. I think Ole Miss, honestly, is going to get up for that. I'm not going to give LSU that one. TAMU, I don't know. That's kind of a tough one too. They were a weird team this year. They preyed on the bottom of the SEC, so maybe they get that one.
Changes with Texas A&M though.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I don't know. I'll give them that one. McNeese, they snag that one, of course. Kentucky, I think they can win. Mississippi State, I think they can win. Auburn, I'm going to say they can win that. Alabama, I don't think they get Alabama. Texas, let's say no. Tennessee, let's say no. They go on a skid. And that puts them at like a potentially 7 or 8 win season. So they have a relatively tough road. And I just did that off the top of my head. I understand like that's not really a whole lot of thinking going into that. But LSU, they made the right move with Leva here. That's my ultimate point. This was the play. But can they build everything else up? Because you're exactly right. There isn't a lot of leash on Lane Kiffin here. He's going to need to probably have, I would say, an 8-win season at the bare minimum, and that's already a level of like, is this the guy? Did we make the right move? Which is crazy. And then in the next 2 years, probably needs to get to that double-digit mark and make the college football playoff, if I had to guess.
Yeah, the best thing about it, looking at it, is they do play Bama in Baton Rouge. They do play Texas in Baton Rouge, so that does help them. I think they win out their non-conference games, but like, can you get 5 or 6 wins in that SEC schedule in year one with Lane Kiffin? And I know, like, he obviously is used to being against SEC schools. He was just at Ole Miss, but like,
right,
this is a different roster. He hasn't had a chance to build this roster. And we've had some conversations in the past about Lane Kiffin with like him building his recruits. And like, there's a big stat going out there right now. Like, how many 4 or 5-star recruits did he have before Pete Golding in his first couple of years at Ole Miss compared to his last? So like, how much of the recruiters is he bringing with him to LSU? And like, how important is that? And then you could also make the conversation is how important are 4 and 5 stars even more anymore? Because Curt Cignetti is changing that entire conversation, right? So there's a lot of things that are going into it. I think this is going to be a very important year, although it's the first year for Lane Kiffin at LSU. And I'm right there with you. I don't think if you get to 8-4, personally looking at this schedule, I think that's an impressive first year based on all the things he has to overcome and all the things that haven't already gone right for him. But I don't think that's going to be enough for LSU fans. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I think the fans won't be happy with it, but I don't think that that's like a fireable offense, basically. If he gets 1 win, I wonder if they leave. It might be 1.5 seasons he's coaching there, so just something crazy. But I think if he gets a bowl game, if he gets to 7 wins, I think he probably gets more than a year no matter what. It'd be hard to imagine LSU firing their coach literally in the first year. But it's going to make the second year a lot shorter of a leash. So I think at 8 wins, he buys himself probably at least 2-3 more years. But LSU just does feel to me like this place where you have to win right now. Like you don't get time. And that's why they brought in a guy like Lane Kiffin, who has seen success at the SEC level. And we expect it here and pretty much immediately. So Sam Leavitt was the move. I mean, he was the absolute right guy to bring at the quarterback position. It's just about building up the rest of the roster now.
Today's stat of the day is 61. That's the number of the day today, 61. And I need you to drink your brisk iced tea and get ready for a boxing match because I know you're ready to bring this one. 61, that's the number of AP top 25 voters when it comes to college basketball. And out of those 61, 60 of them said Arizona Wildcats are the number 1 team in the country. Only one chose Iowa State. Both of them are 16-0. Arizona is the number 1 team in the country. Iowa State, number 2 in the country. You are an Iowa State Cyclones fan. There's no doubt about that.
That's true.
Nick, tell me, why is Iowa State being disrespected here, and why you think they actually deserve to be the best team in the country?
I'm actually going to push back on you a little bit here.
Wow.
A little bit, not a lot. Iowa State is very capable of being the number one team in the country, but they are not the number one team in the country right now. Looking at Iowa State versus Arizona, they are eerily similar. I saw this tweet make its way across my timeline the other day. Both Arizona and Iowa State are 16-0, 5-0 in Q1, 4-0 in Q2, and 7-0 in Q3. So, like, literally the same top to bottom. Iowa State does have a better strength of record, and they should be number one, like, in that category. But the offensive production for Iowa State has not been there as of late. They started the year a significantly different team. I don't have the tweet in front of me that has the stats, because there's, college basketball fans are awesome. They have all these crazy stats out there. But Iowa State was like number 2 in the specific whatever, and they did look phenomenal. Like, they put up 100 points, and, Milan is one of the best shooters in the nation right now. They are a very, 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 very good basketball team. But offensively, over the last few games, I feel like they've struggled, and specifically in the first half. Meanwhile, Arizona, who have they played? All right. Kansas State, maybe not the best team on the planet. But they still have looked very, very solid. They look solid. So, to argue Iowa State should be number one, I won't make that argument. I won't. They are capable of being number one. They need to prove it back to me, though. They've got a few games. They've got, obviously, Kansas on the road. That would be a major win, if more than anything else, because of the rivalry. Right now, Kansas kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie.
They're not looking great.
They don't look very good. That they somehow beat TCU. That was a crazy collapse, and that was just one of the ones that I watched recently. But I think Iowa State's capable. They have one of the best trios in the nation in Jefferson, Lipsey, and Momcilovic. They have maybe one of, I think I would argue, top 2, top 3 head coaches in the country in Otzelberger. They have the depth. They have everything. They just need to find a way to get a couple more points on the board. Their defense is phenomenal. But, man, is their offense kind of struggling right now. We could be looking at an undefeated, potentially, Arizona versus Iowa State matchup in like a couple months. I think it's like the very beginning of March that they square off. And that would be maybe one of the greatest basketball games of all time. But I know Iowa State's very focused on just who's in front of them. Next game, next practice, next 5 minutes, next 30 seconds. That's how this team operates. And so, I'm focused on Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah, Kansas is going to be an interesting game. Kansas hasn't been very good at all. On the flip side, when it comes to Arizona, you're right. I mean, they've been a good team. Don't get me wrong. They beat the defending national champs in Florida. Florida's not the same team that they were the past season, though. And then, of course, there's a couple other teams that they won. I think they beat UCLA. They did beat UConn. UConn's a big win for sure. They've had a couple big wins for sure. They beat Auburn. They beat Alabama. You guys beat Purdue, though, on the road. That was incredibly tough. That was incredible. A lot of people did not expect Purdue to go down that early, and that in the way you did it, you won 81-58. That was incredible, for sure. I think the game against Kansas, obviously, a lot of people think that could be potentially a trap game. That one's tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific time. So I guess 9 o'clock. It's a late one. 9 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. So a good one to check out that one for college basketball. On the flip side, Arizona's got some good games coming up as well. Could you imagine if that game actually did happen, where they went all the way through March and they both went undefeated? It would probably be the best game. I'm not betting on that. I think they're going to have a couple losses. The Big 12 is absolutely insane. These teams are going to lose basketball games. The Big 12 is just way too good for that to say it. And these are perfect examples. The Big 12 conference has the number 1 and number 2 team in the country right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to look at this, right? Like, Michigan hasn't looked very good recently, but there was that run right around like the Players Era tournament where I don't know if the Avengers could have beaten them. Like, they were just unstoppable. And that's what happens in basketball. You're going to have stretches of very, very good play, stretches of, ooh, that was kind of rough. We didn't really make any buckets and we kind of forgot how to play. Like, that's just what happens when you play all of these games. And so Iowa State's going to have that. They're going to have a few games where they're not going to look great. And Audie Crooks, obviously Iowa State women's basketball, said this. I believe it was after their loss to Baylor, so their first of the season. They've gone on a skid since, but neither here nor there. You don't want to peak in January. You want to peak in March. And so if Iowa State comes out and starts the season 25-0 and they win every game by 85 points, and then they forget how to play ball and they lose in the first round of the playoffs or the tournament, doesn't matter. right, is completely irrelevant. And if they don't make like a Big 12 title game or a Big 12 championship, tournament, what was all of that for? Like, you had the greatest start to the season. Awesome. But they don't really hang a lot of banners for that. So I think that there has to be an element too of both Arizona and Iowa State are probably going to see a dip in production at some point. If this is Iowa State's dip, I feel really good about that. And then obviously it'll come back up and they'll be one of the best teams undoubtedly. But if this isn't if they take it even a dip from here, I'm not going to panic because it's not March. I would be very terrified if they started to see a deep dip offensively or defensively come March. But for now, it's still January 13th. Like, we don't have to panic yet. I'm okay with putting Arizona at 1. But as we get closer to March, Iowa State, we're fighting for a 1 seed right now. So like, these games still matter, but you just got to take it game by game and understand that basketball is very much a game of runs, both in the games, but also in the season as well.
I think we might have a Big 12 tournament that might be more impressive than the NCAA tournament itself with all these teams: Houston, BYU, Arizona, Iowa State, Texas Tech, how great those teams are. I think all of those are currently in the top 15 in the AP top 25 right now. They're all going to be battling for one Big 12 championship game. And then, oh, by the way, there'll be a March Madness tournament after that. That's the insane part. Iowa State 16-0 start, best in program history. They're going to take on the Kansas Jayhawks tonight, who are currently 11-5. They just lost to West Virginia and Morgantown. This is not a normal Bill Self team. This is a team that could be missing the tournament, let alone not being ranked 11-5. You just don't hear that from Kansas, especially what they've had with their big recruits, potentially the number 1 pick in the NBA draft coming up. It'll be interesting. This could be, is this a trap game? I mean, this could be a trap game at Allen Fieldhouse for sure.
I don't know. Is it a trap game or is it just a tough game? Like, that's kind of how I see it. I think it was one I circled, and looking at their schedule, like, Iowa State does have a weird kind of schedule, in my opinion, other than this Kansas game and then another Kansas game on February 14th. They don't really play a lot of tough competition. It's the Big 12. Every game is tough, but it's like Cincinnati, UCF, Oklahoma State again, Colorado, Kansas State, who looks like a middle school team right now, Baylor, TCU. It's like, okay, who is that? And then to end the season, this is where they're going to be tested, and this is where you have to peak at the right time. They have Kansas again at home, Houston at home, BYU, who looks like they might be the 3rd best team in the nation behind Arizona and Iowa State. And they'll be at BYU, who has one of the craziest free throw shooting situations I've ever seen. They've got multiple of those flimsy car dealership guys. I don't know how that's allowed. I don't think I could ever make a single free throw there. And then they'll play Utah on the road, Texas Tech at home, Arizona. That's the game we've been talking about. And then Arizona State. So the final, 2, 4, 6, 7-ish, 8 games to end the season, Iowa State is going to be tested like crazy. There's a chance, like, you beat this Kansas team, you get another 2, 4, 5, 6 games in there. They have a crazy start to the season. Like I said, they start like 26-0, but it's going to come down to how does the end of the season go? Can you peak at the exact right time? So trap game against Kansas, maybe. Honestly, I don't even really care. Like, win the game, don't win the game. You're going to learn from it. If you lose, if you win, momentum carries on. Let's get the next one. But man, is that end of the season going to be rough?
Thank you for the 101 people across all social media following us all the way through this show today on Marv and Rauh in the morning. This was really fun. Really enjoyed this one. We'll be back here tomorrow with another one. We got some fun stuff built up for you for Wednesday. We're bringing in a new sport. We're going to talk some new sports tomorrow. Okay. Look at that. Adding more to the Marv and Rauh morning mix. So be sure to
hit subscribe for that one.
Yeah, exciting stuff. And if you're looking for more stuff, if you're looking for the clips, if you're looking for us, we talk each topic, we split them up and we put them on the YouTube channel. So if you're looking for just conversation about the Steelers, conversation about Iowa State, you can, of course, check that out on our YouTube page.
It's a great way to be like, hey, to your buddy, like, oh, by the way, they were talking about this specific thing. You don't have to send them the entire show. Well, nobody's asking for that. Just send them the Steelers clip.
Yeah, that's right. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. It's free, and it helps us out. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And until tomorrow, we'll see you back here next time right here on Marv and Rauh in the morning.